think Michael Haas is the final candidate. We're holding on for another minute. It's just 6:30, but we'll give him a couple more seconds here. If anybody's not muting their phone, please do so. Okay, well, in order to stick to schedule, I'm going to go ahead and get us started, and out of respect of everybody's time. First of all, good evening and welcome to the HIMSS New York State Chapter Elections 2021 candidate debate for the board members at large position. We have 2 open positions for that, for the board's member at large that we'll be looking to fill this year. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate all of the candidates' interests in becoming members at large with the board of New York State HIMSS Chapter. Candidates on our panel tonight include Olga Kagan, Brett Kinsler, Inderpal Kohli, and if Michael joins us, Michael Haas. You're hosted by members of the election committee, including Ellen Ergorat, Yasmin Henry, and myself. I'm Bill Duax. For your awareness and in disclosure, we are recording this session, and it will be made available to our membership and to the public in general for review later. We are not having anybody with us live listening in today, other than the folks you see on display here. The format of tonight's session is question and answer. Candidates will be asked to respond in varying order as we move through the questions. There are 5 questions, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to each of the questions. Are there any questions before we get started tonight? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll ask the first question, and again, there'll be 2 minutes for each candidate to respond. I'll pick a candidate to start with and work through it. And then I'll transition the second question to Yasmin, and she'll pick the order of candidates with which she would like to respond. And then Ellen will take the third question, back to myself, and back to Yasmin. And again, we'll have a timer. I'll warn folks when they have 30 seconds left in the 2-minute clock for each question. And one more time, are there any questions as we get started?
No.
Okay, thank you. Inderpal, I'll present you with the first question today, and you'll have 2 minutes to answer. Have you ever participated on a board of directors, and why do you want to be a board member of the New York State HIMSS Chapter?
Okay, the first part is easy to answer. No, I have not. But that is also one of the reasons that I'm excited to participate in HIMSS, in the capacity of member of the board. Why I feel, I've been member of HIMSS for several years. I've been participating in various meetings and conferences, and I feel that the experience I bring to the table is very relevant. I've been in the thick and thin of healthcare for the last 19 plus years at major academic medical centers. My scope of responsibility really is very multifaceted, very wide. All hospital-based clinical systems, working on multiple solutions, multiple vendors, multiple operational users, departments, functions. And when I look at HIMSS, that's the scenario we are in today in healthcare and healthcare technology. It's no longer just implementing an OR system, or no longer just implementing a lab information system. Every system needs to talk to each other. Interoperability is the key. Information sharing is the key, and that is where my practical experience will be very helpful. In addition, what I can say is, even though I've not participated as a member of board, I've been involved with several organizations in a pro bono capacity, and I've always given more than 100% to those roles too. I I've been involved with the Cornell University's Health Informatics program for the last 8 years or so. I've been teaching in various capacities there as a guest lecturer, adjunct instructor, working with the students. Again, this just shows the level of commitment I can have for something which is I'm doing on the side. But in my mind, I'm not doing this on the side. This is my way of giving back to the community, back to the people, back to my colleagues. And that is why I think I will be successful in this role.
Thank you, sir. Same question, and I'll repeat the question. Olga, we'll go to you next. Have you ever participated on a board, and why do you want to be a board member of the New York State HIMSS chapter? You're on mute, Olga.
I didn't realize. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you for this question. I appreciate it. Yes, I do serve on boards currently. I serve several boards. One is an elected adjunct faculty representative at the City University of New York School of Professional Studies, Governing Council. I also serve on the American Nurses Association's Nomination Elections Committee within New York State. And I also am a member of the advisory board for Malloy College Center for Research and Evaluation. In addition to that, I am pretty active in several other organizations, one of which the New York Academy of Medicine, and the nursing committee there, and also the informatics work group. And recently we had put a conference there, which was very successful and attracted a lot of, attention. And also, I'm a member of the Society of Neuroscientists, Innovators, Entrepreneurs, and Leaders, known as SANCL, and I'm pretty active with that committee as well. We recently held our third hackathon, Nurse-Led Innovation, and that just concluded this weekend. And I also am pretty active with the American Academy of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology on several of their committees, one of which Technology and Innovation Committee. And in addition to that, I'm very active in my own community where I serve on school board as a shared decision-making committee chair and also on the local PTA. So I've been involved, again, with a lot of pro bono work, and I'm happy to serve, and I've been pretty active with HIMSS since 2013. So I'm looking forward to continuing that involvement. Thank you.
Thank you. And Brett will ask the same question. I'll repeat it. Have you ever participated on a board, and why do you want to be a board member of the New York State HIMSS chapter?
Sure. So yes, participated on several boards. At religious institution, I was on the board of directors. I was on board for a think tank called the West Hartford Group, which sounds regional, but it was actually a international think tank. Served on the New York State Chiropractic Association as a state delegate for two different EMS agencies, two different parts of New York State. I was on board of directors for those, transitioned into director of operations for one of them, so relinquished the board seat in order to do that. Currently, I'm on the board for Tech Rochester, which is the Technology Council for Rochester, New York, and I'm the healthcare director for that organization. Part of the Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield Musculoskeletal Practice Variation Collaborative, serving on that, and I also serve currently on the board of directors for an organization called Stages, which is a children's theater organization here in Rochester. Why do I want to be on the New York State Chapter HIMSS board? Most of what I've done has been regional. I've done several things that have been state, served on several state boards, and I like the larger scope. So what I really enjoy, what I've done here in Rochester, I'd like to be able to take some of that and expand it to state. Thanks. And I enjoy the collaborative process, the collaborative decision-making process, and coming up with ideas in a group. And I know what it takes to serve as a board member. I've done it enough times, so I have a very good feeling of what I'm in for.
Thank you very much. So that ends the first question, and I will pass it to Yasmin. I will continue to keep time after Yasmin presents the questions, and I'll be notifying you of the 30-second time timer as well.
Okay, great. A great answer so far. So Brett, let's start with you with the second question. What do you hope to accomplish in your first 6 months on the board as a board member? Or if you prefer, you could answer, how will you define success as a board member?
Yeah, I think anytime you come into an organization, even in a leadership role, you have to make that decision. Am I going to come in and start as a leader, or am I going to come in and listen and learn, understand what the culture is, understand the history of what's happened before? And I think whether it's a volunteer board position or whether you're coming in as a consultant or as an employee, it's very wise to take some time to absorb what's happening. So I'm not necessarily coming in with a crafted agenda of what I want to do. There are certainly areas that I want to touch, and there's things in healthcare and healthcare technology that I'm very passionate about. I want to increase initiatives in privacy, interoperability, the shift from fee for service to value. There's a lot of areas in healthcare that I'm excited to be more involved in and honestly help craft policy in. But I think as sitting on a board for HIMSS, it's more important to have the voice of our who we represent, meaning the constituents in the state, and not just our own agenda coming in.
Thank you. Inderpaul, let's go to you. Since you've not been on any particular board, what do you hope to accomplish in your first 6 months on as a board member, or how will you define success?
Yeah, thank you. So yes, you started correctly. I've not been on a board member, but doesn't mean I've not been involved in various organizations. I've not been part of the decision-making table. So one of the function HIMSS play is really to bring collaborators together and really develop either a framework or develop partnerships which can eventually benefit the patient care, right? The goal really is to use of technology for patient care. And that is something I have, as I said, 19 plus years of experience doing, actually right in the middle of it, to the level of project manager many times. So I think I can bring that to the table for our committees, our discussions, our collaborative ventures. What will I define as a success? So, I look at the various initiatives HIMSS is involved in. I can definitely pick at least 3 or 4 which I'm very passionate about. Interoperability is the key for me, really. The information exchange across institutions. I think we as a community broke many barriers during last year's COVID ramp up across the institutions, and it helped that all of them had, or a lot of them had Epic. So the records were available, and I think we just need to continue down that path. Now the customer or patients demand that. So in my mind, if I were to be successful in my position, and if I can influence this across New York State, the interoperability, sharing of records, sharing of images in any shape or form, that would be great. If I can make a dent in that, that will be a great success factor. But again, I would say that yes, having not worked at HIMSS or board before, so I don't know how easy or difficult it will be, but I will definitely bring my passion.
Time. Thank you.
Right. Olga, over to you. I'll repeat the question. What do you hope to accomplish in your first 6 months on the board? Or how do you define success?
Thank you, Yasmin, for this question. I think there are several things that could be achieved. And the way I look at it is HIMSS right now has many, many worthwhile initiatives as a national and also New York State chapter as well. So one of the things that they're pursuing is, for example, transformation of health and healthcare across academia, practice, industry, and nursing specialty. The value that I bring is my diverse expertise across all of these and my ability to be that unifying voice in transforming health and healthcare across academia, practice, policy, and research based on my background and years of experience. I think another important thing that we should be looking at, and I do agree with my colleagues here, is that the technology piece, and that's another initiative that HIMSS has been very much involved with, that has to do with interoperable electronic health records and inpatient and also the outpatient healthcare setting, which is actually closely aligned with the National Academy of Medicine, The Future of Nursing report that was just released on May 11th. And I have to say that I think this is very important that we work with the profession of nursing, because it's one of the largest workforce segments that delivers healthcare. And so we have, 4.2 million nurses just here in the United States, and we have 7.2 million in Europe, which is, HIMSS is a global organization, and we have 27 plus million around the globe. So nursing profession is extremely large, and these are the people who are in the trenches, who are delivering care, and then we're here for them to develop those technologies and integrate them, and also educate them. So I'm, certainly very much in support of nurses being involved with this organization. So I think without them, we can't achieve health equity or reduce health disparities or promote, equity, and also we can't really, we won't be able to save the cost or utilize technology or maintain patient and family-focused care. So I'm sorry, I'm out of time, I think.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
You're welcome. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Ellen.
Okay, thank you, Yasmin. Okay, can everybody hear me? Sorry, double. So the question that I have for all of you, I'll start with Brett. Are you currently a member of New York State HIMSS Chapter committee? And tell us, if you are, what experiences have you had with the committee? And if you're not, which committee would you be interested to join and why?
Yeah, I am a member of a few, and I'm trying to remember. I think one of them is there's an interoperability committee that I've been involved in for a couple of years. What other ones would I mean, I've been involved in several over the years, but the interoperability one is really the one that I've spent the most time on. I served embedded as an interoperability clinical informaticist with the health system for a number of years. So that was an area that was of utmost interest to me at the time. And honestly, I would have to look and see what other groups are available. I do scan it periodically, but it's a terrible answer, but that's the only one that I know that I've been involved in.
Okay, thank you for that answer. We go for Inderpal. Same question. Are you currently a member of the New York State HIMSS Chapter committee? And what is your experience with that? And if you're not, which committee would you be interested in and why?
No, I'm not a member of a HIMSS committee, though I do participate with various chime sessions all the time on a variety of topics. But coming back to the HIMSS committee, I mentioned interoperability, which is really a health information exchange and interoperability committee. That would be of interest to me. But the other one, which will be of immense interest to me, is innovation. While I'm not part of a HIMSS Innovation Committee, I am part of, I collaborate very closely with the Innovation Department at HSS. So HSS, in addition to being an academic medical center, has actually a full-blown innovation department where we collaborate with a variety of industry leaders for innovative solutions, ranging from really the orthopedic implants to actually technology solutions. And of course, I come in and I participate in various such evaluations. And we have actually implemented several innovative products at HSS coming out of that group. So that will be definitely my big interest, innovation, in addition to the health information exchange. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And then Olga, same question. Are you currently a member of the New York State HIMSS Chapter Committee? How was your experience with that if you are a part of that? And then if you're not, which committee would you be interested in and why?
Thank you, Ellen. Well, yes, the nursing committee is certainly a very near and dear to my heart, being a nurse. So I certainly think I found my tribe in 2013, when I first met my colleague nurses at the conference right here in New York City, downtown Manhattan, Marriott Hotel. And so since then, I've been just thrilled to be part of it and been involved. And now that we're in a virtual world, just since last year, I've been able to serve as an executive director and moderator for the summit that we held in November on nursing innovations. And also, thrilled to know that the template that I've developed is being used now for other events within the organization. And also was able to actually just recently this May, we had another event that I moderated with a colleague of mine here virtually to celebrate the Nurses Week. So that was very rewarding. And I also, have been instrumental in coordinating some meetings with Nick Cristiano and Anthony Ferrante and Marianne Connor, Mary Jo Garcia and Eileen, with other organizations that are seeking partnerships with HIMSS NY. And so I also assisted them in sourcing high caliber speakers, not only for the events that I had moderated, but also panelists for other HIMSS events. So I'm very passionate about education when it comes to, having these opportunities for our members. And I'd like to continue to do that on a larger scale.
30 seconds.
I think that concludes my presentation. Sorry.
No,
Thank
very
you.
good.
Thank you for all your answers, all three of you, and I'll give it back to Bill.
Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the next question. Inderpal, I'll start with you. What has been your best contribution in healthcare informatics so far in your career, and how can you help? I'm sorry, and how can that help in this position?
Wow. I'm just trying to think through which one to choose. But I think on the theme of interoperability, I will pick a contribution which is not definitely my most impactful, but I think it gels with what I've been talking about. So HSS has developed a partnership arrangement with Stanford Hospital in Connecticut, where we actually run their orthopedics. So there's this single floor where HSS performs its surgeries. And then sure enough, the two institutions have to work together, and the data needs to be exchanged. While at Stanford, you use Stanford's IT systems, while at HSS, you use HSS IT system, and that really created an unpleasant workflow for all of our clinicians, especially surgeons. So I would say that the process took over a year. We were able to create an HSS-like workflow for our physicians, which is really they would operate in Epic and at HSS, and we'll deliver that information to Stanford to act upon, and then they will come back and complete the clinical documentation in Epic. Again, that information will flow back from Stanford. Doesn't seem like a lot, believe me, considering all the other things I've done, but this and at HSS, and we'll deliver that information to Stanford to act upon, and then they will come back and complete the clinical documentation in Epic. Again, that information will flow back from Stanford. Doesn't seem like a lot, believe me, considering all the other things I've done, but this one is at the heart of what I've been saying, really, the collaboration across various constituents. And this was as much a political, as much intent problem to solve, as much as a technology problem. So, I'm very proud of that we were able to create a model out of it, implement it, and sure enough, a year later, HSS developed a similar partnership with Tenet Hospital in West Palm Beach, Florida, and we were able to implement the exact same model. So I can take credit for creating that run book and what we call as our external surgery workflow. And again, this is what HIMSS and every organization needs to do, to work across and share patient information for better patient care. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. Olga, I'll come to you next. I'll repeat the question. what has been your best contribution in healthcare informatics so far in your career, and how can that help you in this position?
Thank you. There've been a few, but I think in the interest of time, I'll focus on my career as an educator. And I think for me, it's important that I'm now very much involved in the preparing future generation of nurse informaticists to fill the gap that's so important right now as we integrate all those new technologies into healthcare. And preparing that new generation of professionals is significantly important. So right now, in both colleges that I teach, graduate level nurses, both of those have been growing. And with, for example, CUNY School of Professional Studies, we are expanding the program, and we've been, involved with the curriculum development, also creation of digital learning tools, and as well as engaging the new generation of nurse informaticists within organizations such as HIMSS. One of the things that I think I'm also very proud of is the ability of engaging people and members, because, we want to provide them with the value. So by providing them high quality educational programming, continuing education credits, and we can expand, attract more individuals within our organization, so we can, deliver that quality and also, the value. So I'd like to continue with doing that. In my personal professional practice, I also heavily rely on digital educational tools. So that's certainly something that I also rely on for my science work, in my area of research. So with that, I will pass it on to the next person. Thank you.
Thank you. And Brett, on the same question, what has been your best contribution in healthcare informatics so far in your career, and how can that help you in this position?
So I was having a conversation one day with the chief medical information officer at a health system, and I was looking for an innovative project to bring in to the system. And we were chatting one day, and I said, I'm thinking maybe about doing something with MOLST. With advanced directives, and really wasn't handled well in their EHR system. And he said, "What are you wasting your time on MOLST for? You should be doing PDNP." So the first thing I did was I had to go research what the hell PDNP was. So when I learned that this is the way this for the states to manage opioid prescription drug management program, and further learned that in New York State the system is very poorly connected. It wasn't connected to any EHRs directly. There were some wonky workarounds. It was sort of connected to a couple of the RIOs, but not really well. So I dove into this, drove it, focused on it, and managed to get this health system connected to the state PDNP, working with Epic, working with the Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement, the Department of Health, ITS for New York State, New York eHealth Collaborative, the Rochester RIO, and this health system, and actually got this working. They were the first New York State health system to connect to the prescription drug monitoring database in New York. I also got it funded. I uncovered a grant for this and managed to have the health system do this for no cost. Time saved for the providers was calculated at just south of $1 million a year, the amount of time that it was saving them consulting the database. How does that help me here at HIMSS? This was an amazing experience, bringing together stakeholders from government, providers, vendors, collaboratives, and developers all around a common, very important purpose of saving lives and reducing opioid abuse.
Thank you for your answer. For the last question tonight, I will hand the mic back over to Yasmin to wrap us up.
Okay, so generally, when we ask people about their past experience, they typically speak about a good decision that resulted in positive outcomes. But I'm going to flip the switch a little bit on you guys. I need you to share with us a decision that turned out badly for you and your organization, and what did you learn from that? I think I'll start with Olga on this one.
That's a tough one. Thank you, Jasmine. The term bad for the organization.
Or for
Oh
yourself?
gosh. Yeah, this is a tough one because I'm someone who really does believe in consensus building. So I never ever make decisions on my own solely. So whenever decisions are made, they're typically made built on the consensus with all the stakeholders. And when you work in that way, I believe that the failure is minimal. And maybe for that reason, I can't recall any, so I'm sorry. But for every committee that I've ever chaired, for any position that I ever held, we've always had excellent working relationship. I'm a team player, and that's something that I think, makes me someone who, knows how to work with people, someone who, listens, someone who, makes decisions together. And so I think that's for that reason I just can't think of a situation where it was a failure.
I'll just
So
jump in for a second.
I'm
and shift
sorry.
the- No, it's okay. I'll shift the question a little bit. What may be an accomplishment that you're least proud of?
Yes, thank you, Bill.
I have to take a moment to think about this. I'm least proud of accomplishment, not necessarily on the board.
Let's go broad. Why, whatever you can think of.
Well, I guess I'd be honest with you, I have two teenagers. Okay, so there have been moments when I wasn't proud of my sometimes certain behaviors that sometimes, children could be daring, and there could be times when you can lose your cool. And I think that's the only time where I can remember really feeling badly and felt like I really had to apologize to them for something that I've said or the way I acted. And I think that's something that really bothers me as a parent. And so, because you always want to be the best role model you could be for your children. And so, especially for those who are teenagers. So you always want to be your best. And I think that's something that I have to be a lot more careful about and really be the best role model I can for them.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Olga.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And, Brett and Interpol will extend your 2 minutes as long as we've extended Olga's, and we'll add that flavor to the question. But Yasmin, I'll pass it back to you to restate the questions.
Okay, so Brett, let me restate that question for you. Tell us of a decision that turned out badly for you and your organization, or your organization, and what did you learn from it?
So I love this question because about 10 years ago, I realized that there were things that I had done or decisions that I was involved in or were made that I would question for a long time afterwards. And so I developed a failure resume. And I don't know if you've heard of this before, but it's basically every project I've been on, every job I've had, every board I've served on, and even some personal things go on this failure resume. And I put down what did I do wrong? What didn't go well? And I take ownership of it. So for me to point to one thing, nope, every single thing that I've ever been involved in, I've made a lousy decision. I backed the wrong person. I failed to explain something properly. I focused on the wrong initiative when I should be focusing on something else every single time. And I keep track of it, not to beat myself up over it, but to be able to say, what did I learn from that experience? And how do I avoid doing that again in the future? So, and thank you for the reminder, because it's been a few months since I've updated my failure resume. And I think after this debate, I need to do it again.
So can you describe one of those that is a decision that turned out badly? Is a specific example?
So people, not everybody thinks I'm funny. This was a lesson that I learned from serving on a particular board and trying to make light of things that I probably should not have been making light of. And without going into too specifics, that's exactly what's written in my failure resume is not everybody thinks I'm funny, and I need to remember that.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you for sharing that. Interpol, next question. So tell us a situation that turned out badly for you, a decision that you made that turned out badly for you and your organization, and what were your lessons learned?
So unfortunately, I didn't have to think much about this because I'm living it right now. And I actually mean it right now. Just before this was another meeting on that project. So it wasn't my decision, but it was a collective decision made by operations which we're living. And I will not name the vendors just to keep it neutral. An organization chose a vendor to integrate our infusion pumps with EMR, which is a huge patient safety initiative. Olga will probably relate very quickly, where the medication is the medication orders are delivered from EMR to infusion pump, so there's no transcription error there. Then the documentation comes back into Epic, no transcription error there, and more timely documentation. Huge initiative for all organizations who want to achieve a certain level of patient care. So we did that, and but in the interest of keeping with the current vendor who they liked, they picked a vendor who had experience with one organization integrating before, versus other vendor had 130 live integrations. So and that risk we took got realized now. So we have been struggling for last 2 months, and I actually mean last 2 months, with hours and hours of work trying to resolve the technical issues we are facing. Mm-hmm. So your second part was what lessons did we learn? So I think it was a risk. I knew it was a risk, but it was not an IT decision to make. It was a clinical decision to be made by nursing anesthesiologists. At that time, I'm so glad what I did. What I did was enforce some contractual terms, including us invoking, giving them a notice, and then within 6 months, return the pumps to them, get our money back, plus get up to $1 million to cover our cost. So, and those are the kind of discussions we're having with the vendor now, or internally with the legal, to remediate a situation. Lesson learned here, I think lesson learned, again, I don't know if I could have done anything different, because it's not my decision to make, but it's me and my team who are living through that decision, including the organization. We have trained our nurses, but we cannot go live. So I think the lesson is just be strict with your contractual terms, so you at least have an out. But more importantly, the second lesson is test. We did not go live with it, so we saved the debacle. Everything is working as normal. Nurses are programming the pumps manually. The earth is spinning, the world is moving, right? But if we would have gone live, then I would have had a much bigger problem at my hand. So thankfully, the second lesson is test.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that does conclude the question and answer portion of the discussion, as well as the discussion and the debate altogether. So we appreciate candidates, your participating today, and your straightforward and honest answers to the questions. Very much appreciated. And Yasmin and Ellen, thank you as well for joining myself and asking the questions. The link, we expect that the recording of this will be made available within a 24 to 48 hour period. There'll be a notification that is sent out via our constant contact distribution list to the member base, including yourselves, once that link is made available. And we will continue to remind folks to register to vote, and we appreciate your help in doing the same. The more voters are registered, the more people can vote, and the better the better it is for the organization as a whole to show and increase that participation. So thank you all for participating tonight.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you all the panelists.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
It's nice meeting you.
Yes, same here.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.